This. Another example about pity is that he has pity. Where did a person has to have pity? So he has pity for himself. This is an example of world of chaos also. Thinking about himself. It's called Yeshus. He's self-centered. And all his personal character traits, he is the first one on the list. And this is basically what the inyan of Teo is. Teo is that everyone is standing with its strongest potential, which is the inyan of Yeshus. The self-centeredness that is reflected in all the attributes of that world. In addition to that, every attribute itself of Elam Mateo had also another problem, technically speaking. An attribute consists of two different factors. One is the revelation and one is the vessel. One is the oil, one is the keli. Over here it was a shortcoming on both ends. The oil, the light, was a very big revelation. Not only big in quantity, but in quality. It was a different quality than the stabilized world. Completely different quality. A different sort of a light and revelation. The vessel was considered a small vessel. What does it mean, a small vessel? So Hasidus explains, when we're talking about a small vessel, we're not talking here about physical dishes. I mentioned from time to time that it was in yeshiva in Newark, when they learned in Newark, New Jersey, the Lubavitcher Yeshiva, the Rabbinical College. Today they're in Morristown. Right, so 40 years ago, I was actually the last graduating class from Newark in 1971.
I don't know that. No.
So and that's when they sent us all to 770. So it was then, it was actually before my time, it was in the 60s, that young students would relay discourses in the different synagogues, the different shuls they went to, Shabbos, to speak by Shalshudas, the third meal of Shabbos. They would come to different shuls in Newark, and they walked to Maplewood and this, and they would actually speak for the audience there. On our time we already also spoke, but we changed the different material from discourses to talks. And this is because of this following story. So it was at one point that they came to a shul and they delivered a discourse. The discourse was dealing with this topic: Teo and Tikkun, the world of chaos and the world of the stabilized world. And the world of chaos, the vessels broke, they collapsed. So when he gave over the whole discourse, and after that the gabbai, the caretaker in the shul, announced, he says, guys, the story is really as follows. The dishes in the yeshiva broke, and therefore he's doing fundraising. And this is what he's explaining on a spiritual level. So after that, they stopped already relaying these discourses, because they saw that people are taken to a very literal sense. This is all spiritual. This was a spiritual world, completely, the vessels included. So the vessels actually, when we say something is short, is small, that means it is not a vessel. When the vessel is small, that means it's not an appropriate channel to contain the revelation. What does this mean? So Hasidus explains, this is an example of the mind of a child. If a child is not happy about something, he will go wild. He'll scream, he'll cry, he'll get a fit, he'll very restless. Although the reason that he didn't get what he wanted was because of something else which is a benefit for him. But he is not broad-minded. He is very small-minded. And therefore when he will see he did not get what he wanted, which is important to him, everything else is nothing. And he will just go wild for that. This is called short-fused. This is the mentality of a child. An adult, before he reacts, he will make an evaluation what the situation is, what is there for him, and what is there that he was deprived from, and he will then see that there is no reason to get emotional, because the reason that he did not receive what he wanted to receive was for his own benefit. So therefore, this is because of the broad-mindedness of an adult, that an adult would evaluate it from all corners, from all angles, and then will realize what's happening. So Hasidus explains the vessels of the world of Eila Mateo, of the chaos, was considered like the mind of a child. Is not able to receive such a light. It was too much for them. As the child, it is too much for him if he cannot get something that he really wants. This is one way of explaining it. I brought along a text of a discourse that the Rebbe delivered in late 1952. That's the Maimer Vahu Eimed Aleim. So the Rebbe says that there's something new that I saw that in Hasidus. The Rebbe says like this, that in the world of chaos there was a lot of light. A lot of light again means in quality, a different sort of light, revelation. And Keilim Mu'atim, small and a very small number actually of vessels are not two different things. One is dependent on the other. He says the revelations are dependent on the vessels, and the vessels are dependent on the revelations. The reason that it says it was Keilim Mu'atim, what does it mean? They were small vessels. There was a minimum amount of vessels. That means to say they did not function the purpose of a vessel. When we say for example, in everything, when we say something there isn't so much. So what does it mean? That this function, there isn't so much of a certain topic. There isn't so much of water, for example. This shows that there is a shortage of water. When we say that there weren't so many vessels, that means that there was a lacking of vessels. But Hasidus is speaking here, Kabbalah is not speaking here about quantity, we're talking about quality. So what it really means is that when there is a shortage of vessels, that means there's a shortage of the purpose of what a vessel needs to accomplish. The function of the vessels are not being accomplished because they are not felt that they have to be a vessel. They themselves are also standing with a yearning to go up to higher world and remove themselves from this world. This was the world of Teo, chaos. Both of them together, the light, the revelation, and the vessel, both together were jumping off. And therefore, they also brought such a revelation which is in accordance to their standard. Their standard was not a full-fledged purpose and function of a vessel, but actually was short of that. And therefore, they were closer to a higher revelation. And therefore, they brought down a higher revelation in them. What happened was, eventually, that it just didn't go together, and it collapsed. And the collapse relates to us on a daily basis. When we eat, we drink, we deal with physical matters in this world, we are collecting the sparks of this world and elevating it for a sacred purpose. We're doing a mitzvah by fulfilling a commandment. We are actually elevating all these sparks, returning them to their source. So this is called, from the Arizal, it is called birurim, refinement. We are refining all these sparks of Kedusha. By eating, for the sake of utilizing the energy in a positive way, sacred matter in a positive way, for goodness, kindness, and holiness. So this is how we elevate the purpose and the sparks that are found in all these physical matters. If it's garments, if it's food, if it's other things, we come in contact in business on a daily basis. This is all things that our soul has a special mission, and by divine providence comes in touch with these sparks that our soul exclusively, everyone in particular, needs to take care of. So therefore, this is basically how the Rebbe explains Teo and Tikkun. The Teo and Tikkun is not just technically one was more and one was less. The one that was less means that it was also jumping in the air. It was removed from being a solid vessel that contains and holds the light, the revelation down in a world. And therefore, both together are actually removed from world in a certain sense. Everything that takes place in world, we find in Torah. Where did we find in the Torah certain sages that were